Welcome to another episode of Sanctuary Radio. This is a podcast brought to you by Sanctuary Recovery Centers. Our mission is to break the stigma surrounding addiction, to empower others to live addiction-free lives, providing hope to those who suffer from addiction and offer continued care and true healing. I mean, true healing, Haley. Have you truly healed? That's what I want to know.
I feel like I have, yes.
Well, it's another episode of Sanctuary Radio, and my co-host Haley is here.
What's up, everybody?
Oh, she's back.
I'm back in the flesh.
Oh, you're here. I was going to have to phone you in, and I wasn't real happy about that.
I know.
I got to have you sitting right here. It's just not the
Exactly.
same. I mean, let me move a little closer to you.
Come on, Jason.
And so today on our episode, we have our very own Sanctuary Recovery Centers, our very own clinical director, Michael Dixon, is in the house. Oh, yeah. The round of applause. I mean, he is roaring and ready.
If I won't do it for myself, who will?
Yeah, who will?
Right?
I mean, and we got you on the show, and it's just so powerful just to have a clinical director that's on site all the time, who not only has the experience, but is also willing to get in there and teach group amongst everything else and coach his team and everything, man. And it's just a blessing to have you as part of Sanctuary's team and have you take a break for a second and jump on the podcast.
Happy to be here.
Oh, you're happy to be here. What's the real feeling behind that? Let's go secondary feeling. That sounds like a secondary emotion. I might counsel you a little bit today.
I think I can take it. I feel happy. I feel blessed. It's good to be able to share my story and how I got to where I am. And we all have different stories. And,
Right.
You know, myself included.
I mean, he used the I feel statements.
Yep.
He practices what he preaches.
I was going to say, do you feel a little nervous? Just a little bit?
Oh, no, I'm straight excited.
Oh,
I love
okay.
being the center of attention. It's great.
Oh, here we go.
Of course you do. That makes sense now.
That makes sense.
Extroverted to the
So
max.
do I, but I still get nervous being on camera.
Are you nervous right now?
No, not anymore. But when I first started doing these with you,
Yeah, you were nervous.
yeah, I
as
would
hell.
get nervous.
Yeah, you were nervous as hell. You had a sweat mustache and all that.
I would be fidgety and I'd black out.
And so, you know, every single person has a story, you know,
Right.
and your story isn't, you know, one of, you know, making toasters into
Turbo toasters.
toasters and rocket ships.
Right.
Like Haley's is, and making cell phones better and laptops
I don't know if
better.
I ever made a cell phone
more,
better, but
more drive and RAM and whatever gigabytes. You had a couple on there. I mean, but your story is one that has brought you here. And so today we're going to get into a little bit about your story. And, you know, we wanted to ask you some questions on the end and just kind of hear just everything of where you're at and what you feel and, you know, what it looks like today here at Sanctuary. And so you grew up in Greenwood, Indiana.
Which is not all corn, contrary to popular belief.
How many cornfields
I was going to say,
per
didn't
square
Ethan
mile?
say that in his podcast?
Yeah,
He did, and that's just not correct.
It's
So
not right.
Greenwood is actually a really big city, but Indiana's wacky in the sense that if you drive 10 minutes south, you are in the farm, and the town just south of me is they have drive your tractor to school day, so all the kids will drive their tractors to school.
You know,
on
we
that
have
day.
ride your horse to school day in Wickenburg, so I get it. Or anything but a vehicle day, like you
Is
know
that what
I
it's
mean?
called? Anything but a vehicle day?
Yeah, like where you bring in like a tractor or a horse or whatever.
Did you ride a
Jason?
tractor to school?
I didn't, because you know,
Mom and Dad didn't have a tractor?
No, we didn't. I was in the city, very much in the city.
I mean, shout out Hoosiers.
Had out Hoosiers best, one of the best sports movies ever made, and part of my childhood. And
It is a good sports movie.
Yeah.
I
Never
love
seen
me a
it.
good. One of my favorite movies of all.
Jason.
You never seen it?
No.
what?
You know, one of my favorite sports movies of all time, Rudy.
Yes.
You know what? I like Rudy too.
Oh, you've seen that one?
Also in Indiana, Notre Dame.
Yes, dude. Tearjerker. All
yeah, that
sports
one is a
movies
good
are.
one.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, let's talk a little bit about what it was like, you know, growing up in Greenwood, Indiana, and, you know, the family dynamic. Why don't you share a little bit about what that was like for you?
Sure. I, had my mom and dad. They were both present throughout my childhood, and I don't ever remember my parents not being at any sporting event. And my sister, I have an older sister who went out of her way to make sure that she knew that she had my back, and sometimes she tried to be a third parent, which was tough, but it was all out of love, and she was very good at everything that she did, and I was always happy for her, but that was kind of tough for me because, it was just hard.
Yeah, I mean,
But it was as far as the family dynamic, I'm very, very, very blessed even to this day.
Nice.
yeah. And, I mean, I'm blessed.
I'm blessed. I stay blessed.
Oh, you blessed?
Blessed and impressed. I don't know. I'm just trying to rhyme.
Let's hit a little freestyle for us, Haley. Come on.
No.
I'll put you on the spot.
You. But I will say, ever since I've been out to Oklahoma, there's some sort of peace that I've found being out of the city. And I've gotten really connected to God and my higher power and just like.
Nice.
Yeah.
And cornfields out there?
There's no cornfields, no.
Just in Greenwood, huh?
No, but it's ignited a passion that I feel like I lost while I was here for a little bit. So I'm excited.
I'm glad that you're having that experience.
So I'm blessed.
And so a lot of times, when we think about addiction, we just think that, it's just it's full of trauma and negative emotions and all that. But even if you're not a drug addict, alcoholic who experienced the phenomenon of craving, like we talk about so often on this podcast, you still have traumatic events that happen to you that ultimately shape, your future. Right. And so you experienced some trauma in your life. So would you mind sharing that?
Yeah, no. November 10th, 2001, my dad dropped me off at a tennis lesson. And looking back, thankfully now for myself, he forgot the checkbook to pay for the lesson. So he went home, said, I'll be right back. And I said, all right, I'll see you later. Went into my tennis lesson, and he never came and never came and never came. And then both my grandmothers came to pick me up, and I said, uh-oh.
Yeah, that's not good.
That's not good at all. And they were driving, and it was a silent car ride. And I kept asking them, what's going on? Where are we going? And they wouldn't tell me. And I remember seeing the hospital, and I said, please don't turn in the hospital. Please don't turn in the hospital. And they did. And I went into the family room, and my whole family was there. And that's where they told me that my dad had died. And so that was one of the worst days of my life. However, looking back on it now, had he not forgotten the checkbook, I would have seen it happen. I would have been there. I would have watched it happen. And that would have been exponentially worse. So that's my big T, as we say. That's my big trauma, was that happening at a time that I probably needed him the most. But I
mean, you were 14 years old during this period of time. So what were you, like a freshman in high school?
I was in 8th grade.
You were in 8th grade?
I was in 8th grade, yeah.
Okay, and so what ends up happening from there? Because, when we experience traumatic events, then we start suffering from some mental health issues.
Right.
Sure.
What did you experience from that event?
So in the short term, I remember we got home, and our driveway was already full of people there to support us. And I remember being like, I'm grateful for this, but could you please just get the hell out of my house? Like, I just need to be away. And I remember my best friend who lived in my neighborhood, he came over and walked to his house I was there for a couple of hours. Excuse me. But that was, there was a lot of anger. There was a lot of depression. There was a lot of, why is this happening? There was a lot of just pushing everything down. A lot of things that our clients talk about, I experienced those things. And
so ultimately, that gives you the ability to relate on a whole nother level, because a lot of times what ends up happening is when we're drug addict alcoholics like Haley and myself are, we go to a counselor or a physician, and then we look at the wall and we see a degree from Indiana State University, and we're like, shit, you don't know.
Right.
How could you possibly know what it's like to eat out of a dumpster if you've never done it, and steal everything from your family? Like, you don't get it. But then once, being a good therapist like you are, and you're able to, build that trust and be relatable. And I'm sure you've shared that experience probably with every single client almost that you've ever worked with. I'm just speculating, right? But a lot of times when necessary, right, you're going to share that with them. You become relatable and they understand, and so that's just extremely important to build that trust, right? Did you seek therapy during this period of time?
So my mom took me to a therapist. She said, you're going. I've met her before. She's great. And it was on the north side of Indianapolis. And I said, all right, we're going, but I'm going to sit there. I'm not going to say a word. I just won't. She said, get in the car. Let's go. And I said, all right, you chose this.
That sounds like all your therapy sessions, Haley.
What?
Silence.
No.
So
I'm a talker.
She took me, and I sat there, but because I have that Hoosier hospitality, I couldn't say nothing. So I responded with one-word answers, and my mom was furious with me.
Right.
And I said, I told you. And then I went and and we'll get into this in a little bit, but as I got later in high school, I went to a new school that one of their stipulations was I had to see a therapist. And I actually reached out to him about a year ago just to kind of touch base. And we share emails, not very often, but he was great. And he gave me exactly what I needed
Nice.
And that was pretty powerful.
Yeah, that is powerful. And so you go to high school at a military academy?
I did.
Are we talking like ROTC type academy, wearing uniforms?
We're talking wearing uniforms. We're talking making my bed with 8-inch folds that go 24 inches from the top of the bed to
That's
the top
how
of the
Haley makes hers that way every morning.
So you can relate to our clients because I am very militant with my house manager
So I've heard.
style.
Yeah,
Yes.
and
We've all heard.
I'm sure Dixon can tell you about that.
So marching, we've worked together in the past, and
Yes.
at that location, that other outpatient center, half of my sessions were them complaining about how mean she was.
Listen, I wasn't being mean. I had strong boundaries.
Their
and
words, not mine.
Yeah,
Their
no,
words, not mine.
I'm very stubborn, and I have my boundaries, and you better get it done. That's,
Okay, this might be the one time I side with a client.
Wow. Okay,
This might be
Jason.
that one time.
I see how it is.
But we marched to breakfast. We, it was a boarding school, so I lived there. So I would leave in the first week of August, and I wouldn't come home until October, and then again on Thanksgiving and Christmas. And
Did you like it?
At the time, it was pretty miserable for the first 8 weeks, because it was just so drastic. But I credit that with really saving my life and what I needed and helping me get well. Shout out Culver Military Academy.
Shout out Culver.
Shout out.
I am a very proud graduate. I was in Houston a few weeks ago, and Culver Military Lacrosse was playing on ESPN2. I said, "There's no way this is happening."
Nice.
All
I'm thinking about right now is Full Metal Jacket. I mean, I don't know. Anytime I want to get like extra turned up, I'll watch the first 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah,
I don't even know.
it's wild.
What?
Yeah.
Homework assignment.
Okay.
First 15 minutes, Full Metal Jacket. That's what you need
What
to
is
see.
it about?
I just watch it.
Okay.
I've never steered you wrong
Yeah.
before.
No, that is true.
I don't think.
If he
I will
if he
say
tells you, it ruins the effect. It's
Yeah.
it's wild.
Okay.
And so, you end up graduating from there, and, do you get put on Adderall during this time?
I
or-
did. So
What's your experience with that? Because, in treatment,
Right.
I'm not a doctor, physician, clinician,
Sure.
therapist. I am none of those things, and I never stand in the way of anyone's treatment, any medications that are prescribed. That's not my lane, and I stay out of it. But what was your experience being put on Adderall?
So the whole thing was interesting. All this happened while I was at Culver, and I went up and had to do this special test to get diagnosed, and the doctor came in and said, "Yeah, you've got ADHD or ADD or whatever it was that he said." And I said, "Well, how bad is it?"
Yeah,
And he
scale of
la-
1 to 10.
Yeah, and he laughed and he's like, "You definitely have it." That's what I'll say. And so I was prescribed Adderall,
The blues or the oranges?
blues,
Okay.
the blues, and
Do you know? Okay.
Do I know the different
Yeah.
Adderalls? I mean, I was prescribed it like a couple years ago. That's the only.
The blues or the oranges?
I don't know. It was a capsule.
Oh, it was a capsule. My
Yeah.
bad. All right.
mine was a little blue pill that was.
I've taken Ritalin, and they have blue and orange Ritalin.
Oh, okay.
But it was the little blue ones, and
Yeah.
so I found that I could finally focus, and that was cool. But there was a time that I was sitting in a history class, and I had not taken my dose and forgotten, as is typical with ADHD. You just forget to do things.
Yes.
And I was sitting in a history class, and all I could think about was I didn't take my Adderall, and my heart was racing, and I couldn't sit still, and there was a water fountain right outside the room, and I asked my teacher, "Hey, can I step outside for a second?" And I had it with me in my bag, so I took my bag out, I took the pill, and I just remember being like, "Oh gosh, yes." And I was like, "Oh, well, that was fucking scary."
Yeah.
Right.
That's not supposed to do that and feel that way, and so I had decided that I would take Adderall through the time that I completed high school, and that would be it, and I would stop. And it worked out because my Adderall doctor was up in South Bend, Indiana, which was about an hour from Culver, but was 4 hours from where I lived at home, so that wouldn't work. And so I graduated
you
high
stop?
school. I did.
Are you thinking the same thing I'm thinking right now?
This
I'm
is
thinking,
weird for me.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
because when I get an Adderall prescription,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep
Well, and
taking it. you
I
know?
remember thinking sometimes in college that maybe I should try it again, and then
Right.
but I had a lot of friends that were taking it, and with my overall need just to be accepted and loved and things like that, I was like, man, it'd be way too easy to give it to my friends, and then I'll get kicked out of school because that's
Right.
just how it's going to work out.
See, and again, addict mentality. I'm like, this is how I'll make friends.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm just gonna hand out my Ritalin like candy.
Are you seeing the difference from all other interviews right now?
Yes.
well, and see, the thing is that overpowers everything has
Right.
been like my fear of getting in trouble. I've always hated being in trouble.
Right.
Hated it. It's always because I want to be loved and admired and liked and want to be the center of attention. And I'm this huge, major extrovert, and it's hard because I need to keep myself in check and like, why am I doing this? And is this something that a clinical director would do? Is this something that a therapist would do? And making sure that I'm not acting like a fool just to get somebody to laugh, because that's not who I am anymore.
And I'm the opposite of that, obviously. I was literally voted class clown in school, so anything to make someone laugh, even if it made me get kicked out of that class. So
Yeah, and that's that's the thing though.
The
It's like there's
difference.
like some easy questions, telltale
Right.
signs of being an addict, alcoholic, and one of them is continued use despite negative consequences.
Right.
And just the thought of a consequence, you were able to stop. You put a plan together to stop, and you did it.
Yep,
I mean, so I'm fully convinced that you're a normie.
100%.
Sure.
Say no more. Show's over. I mean, I get it.
And that has actually been a barrier in as a substance abuse therapist.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people that will be like, well, you've never been through what I have, so you can't relate. And it depends on if I'm feeling snarky, I'll say, so if you end up with cancer, you're going to find the best doctor who's had cancer and go to them only. You won't consider anybody else.
Dang, that is a good comeback, though.
Or if we're accepting that this is a disease, then why is it any different? And the answer is it's not.
Right.
But the thing is, even though I don't have experience necessarily with full-blown addiction, I do have experience living sober. And most of the people that come to treatment, hopefully, that's their goal, so I can help them accomplish that.
Damn,
Right.
he just hit us with a
And
1-2
you know what?
right
It's
now.
a good point. It's a good point that you make. Like, you are the provider, and then if you want someone to relate to, you go to a 12-step meeting, right? Or you talk to somebody that you can relate to, but you don't always have to, you don't have to have an addiction to be a therapist in this field.
I mean, he just proved the
Right,
point right
exactly.
there. I mean, what do you say to that?
Yeah.
Do people ever come back with a?
What do you
I was
say to
gonna
that?
say-
There have been people that have just been pretty headstrong, and they've already made up their mind, and they make up their mind with that addict mentality and that addict mindset that I'm not going to be able to understand, and so I don't have time trying to convince people.
All right. And so
Right.
basically at that point, that type of client isn't, I mean, it doesn't matter what type of therapist you have. It's just
Right.
not their
They're
time.
just not willing yet.
And they're not willing. And so you graduate from the
Military Academy.
military academy.
I love this.
You love that
I
right now,
love that
didn't
because
you?
you know how many times I get tongue tied and mess up.
You've been waiting 15 episodes for that moment, and you finally got it. You are connected to your higher power, aren't you?
know.
You prayed for that earlier.
did.
I'm sure you did.
Prayers answered.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you, God. And so you end up going to Indiana State University. I mean, can we shout them out?
I mean, it's the only school I got into. So,
Poor Michael.
well, I did just well enough in high school to get in. But
What's
I
that
didn't.
saying? C's get degrees.
C's get degrees.
That's like my mom's motto for her
Right.
nursing
What was the
students.
mascot at Indiana State?
The Fighting Sycamores.
Excuse me?
The Fighting Sycamores.
What is
that a
Shout out
tree?
Larry Bird.
Oh, he went there?
Yes,
He did go there.
Isn't sycamores a tree?
It is a
Like,
tree.
So how do you? Okay, I'm just gonna leave it.
Yeah, I mean, Haley.
I'm laughing. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So Larry Bird went there?
And Larry Bird did go there.
That's your guys' claim to fame, isn't it?
It is.
Can you name a second famous person in any way, shape, or form?
Michael Dixon.
Yeah. Okay. Say no more.
That's awesome.
And so you go to Indiana State University and you're studying, in a public relations degree.
With a
because you're-
minor in criminology because it was easy.
Yeah, and you're an extrovert, so public relations sounds like a lot of communications courses and stuff like that. And so you do well there, and you do a Disney college program. Never heard of this in my life.
I'm excited.
So what
to hear
is
this
what
is?
does that even mean?
It's where basically you, for an entire semester, you go and you live in an apartment provided by Disney, and you work at Disney World.
So did
and
you
get college credit?
So were you like?
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
Did you dress up like Peter Pan during the week? And
Well, let's remember the characters are the characters. Let's not break the magic here.
Wow, Jason.
I worked a couple different. Actually, worked there, left and graduated, and went back. I worked at the world's largest Disney merchandise store, and we would review the numbers. We'd make like $400,000 to $500,000 a day in sales.
Wow.
And then I worked on some of the attractions, which it was just interesting to see both sides of it. The lead singer to Boyz II Men fell asleep on my ride, and that was obviously a
Wanye?
exciting ride. I don't remember.
Is that his name?
Yeah, something like that.
I love Boyz II
I
Men.
don't even know.
What?
You don't know who Boyz II Men is?
So you haven't seen the first 15 minutes of Full Metal Jacket?
Sing a song, because I'm the worst with.
On bended knee.
The end of the road.
Okay, yes, I've heard that song.
Hey,
Okay.
she's gonna need the second verse just to get the full.
That's it. That's all you get. Nothing more.
I'm terrible with artist names and song names,
Fair.
but if you play it for me, I could probably sing along to it. That's just.
Sure.
The only song I remember is Topher's song.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Our
shout out production, Topher marketing. That episode just got lost in translation, but the jam was amazing.
It was very good.
Yeah, so we got to run that one back.
You know what? I have a clip on my cell phone. We might post to our TikTok.
Yes, please
Yes.
do. Please do.
He said, please don't.
So you were Robin Hood for a semester, and then did you come back as Superman or what?
So
Superman's not, is it a Disney?
Superman's DC.
Yeah, I was like, that's not Disney.
Let's
or
take it easy
Marvel.
here.
Okay. No disrespect.
But, it was just a great experience. And that was something, I had joined a fraternity in college simply because, again,
can we shout the fraternity out?
Yeah, I guess. Tau Kappa Epsilon, TKE.
TKE, shout out. Do you have a brand?
No, absolutely not.
This is so funny to me because, like, most of the people we interview don't even make it into college, let alone a fraternity.
We're on a whole new level today.
I know,
But
I love it.
it was funny because going into that, they were talking a little bit about the hazing, and I was like, I went to a military academy. Like, you got nothing,
Right.
And it was actually
Rush Week wasn't nothing.
It was very mild. It was
Compared to
things.
the military hazing.
Yeah, it was because they understand that, like, at the end of this, we're going to be friends, and we don't want to do anything that's going to, like, traumatize you. And so it was simple things like.
So it's nothing like you see on the movies.
No,
where, like,
and that happens, just not in my experience.
With the
Right.
sycamores.
And it was things like the last week you're allowed to talk to your family, your teachers, and us, and that's it. So if anybody,
that's Bush League.
if anybody approaches you that, if any girls approach you and they try to talk to you, then you're not allowed to talk to them. You can't do anything. You can't say anything like that.
Oh my
And
God, that's weak.
yeah, that
it
is
was,
really
it was,
weak.
but it was whatever. And
One thing that came out of the Disney college program is you met your wife there.
I did. My wonderful wife Kelly, who's
Shout
not
out
going to
Kelly.
like that I'm shouting her out, but
Whoa,
I'm going to
shout
do it
out
anyway.
We
Kelly.
have to do it anyway.
Yeah, throw her
I'm gonna
Facebook
do
out
it.
We've
there.
had bad
And
No,
experiences
no.
with this.
throw her personal phone number out
So
there.
so it's interesting how it worked with us because as extroverted as I am, she is that level of introverted. So she hates the center of attention being on her, and so one of the things that I learned in school is I learned how to country line dance, and the only one that I remember is the boot scoot and boogie. And
Can we see a couple steps?
I mean, we'll see. We got time at the end.
Yeah, we got time for that. We surely got time.
I'm
for
dead
that.
right now.
Haley, you better know how to country line dance.
Nope.
What?
That's
You're not a real cowgirl.
No. Line dancing isn't like,
Oh, that don't count?
no.
Oh.
No, we have like our own swing dancing, like two-step.
That's pretty
in.
country.
Yeah.
That's pretty country.
Line
So-
dancing is for like city folks who want to have a country experience. Sorry,
that was
Michael.
a part of our middle school education. That's
Right.
like we had to learn that for
We had to learn
8th
how to
grade
line
gym
dance
class,
in
and so I
gym
memorized
class.
that one. And
Yeah.
we're at Texas Roadhouse eating with her family, and that song comes on, and she goes, "Don't even think about it,"
Yeah, and you did it.
because I didn't. I respected that because again, I don't want to.
So in school, you learned how to country line dance, and husk corn.
Again, I'm from the city, Jason. I'm from the city,
okay,
big
my
time
bad.
city. Think Peoria, Arizona. That's where I grew up.
All right, that's where I'm from.
Yeah,
All right,
think Peoria.
checks out. So you meet your wife there, and but she moves out to Phoenix, right? Or she,
Right. Well, and the interesting thing is in college, in the fraternity, I learned pretty quickly that if I get blackout drunk, I'll do really funny, embarrassing things that gets people to tell me how funny and cool I am. And so I liked that. And so I did that as much as I could, as often as I could. And really.
See, he's got experience.
A little bit.
A little bit. And
I owe you $5.
it was,
Told you. Told me he did. I told you he didn't. No way.
it was pretty bad for my mental health, and almost failed out of school in the semester, and had to figure it out. Went on academic probation at Indiana State University, which is never a good thing.
No, I've been on academic probation.
I did just
Twice.
well enough to not stay on academic probation and cease to get degrees again. And I went and met my wife, who is the most beautiful person in the world, and inside and out. And she, her and her roommates don't drink at all. And so I spent a lot of time with them. And I was like, hey, look at this. They are accepting me for who I am. It is fun. And I don't feel like dog piss the next morning.
See, he disqualified himself right there again.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, and
He stopped for his girl.
Yeah, exactly.
Good for him.
And so that was pretty special. And then she left because she was working for Disney too, and she left because she hadn't finished school, and I stayed.
She Cinderella or?
She worked at Pop Century. She worked in the food court at one of the hotels.
Okay. All right.
Nice.
So we
Would you meat at a Christmas party?
met through the internship. We met through the internship there, and we kind of started talking before we got down there, and we got down there and hung out, and I tell her this, she doesn't believe me, but I said the first time that I actually saw you, I knew we were going to get married.
Aw.
That's how they all start. I swear.
And I didn't know it at the time, but thinking back, I knew. I was like, man, it's game over. It's a wrap. And so she moved out to Phoenix, and I was living in Florida, and that obviously doesn't work because that's super long distance. And her dad said, hey, why don't you come with me for a little bit? Just get you out here. I got a bed for you. And I'd only met him once. I was like, well, that's odd, but all right, let's let it ride. And so I came out to Phoenix. I drove the whole 36 hours over a couple of days and got to see how wonderful, quote unquote, Texas is. It's not.
Yeah.
Well, then you didn't go to the hill country in Texas.
Please don't disrespect Haley on the show, Michael.
Well, Texas as a state is fine, but driving east to west is
gonna say,
brutal.
yeah.
The drive is
It depends
brutal.
on where you're at, where you're driving through Texas, but there are
Texas,
some
there
very
ain't
pretty,
nothing in Texas.
Whatever east to
There are
west
some
from
pretty
Lafayette, Louisiana
states.
to Las Cruces, New Mexico is.
Yeah, the hill country, you can't beat it.
The only
Sorry.
thing in Texas is a couple crappy football teams.
I can agree to that.
Okay, all right. And so you ultimately land out here. And so when we think about your story thus far, we haven't heard anything about wanting to be a therapist, wanting to be a
Right.
clinical director, majoring in any of the behavioral health type, fields or any of those classes. And so how do we ultimately get to this point once you move out here?
Yeah, so I working for Disney, as great as it was, you get to go to the parks for free every single day. I was making like $8 an hour, and I had no money, and so I was applying places, and eventually I got hired on at a for-profit university, and my job was to call people and get them into school.
Missions. See?
Yep. And
I have some experience.
Yeah.
I didn't have the heart for it because one of the things that happened is I had a young man on there who I was walking him through our website, and he's like, and I said, go ahead and read that passage for me. He's like, oh, I don't know how to read. And so he just fallen through the cracks, and I told my boss, and she said, it's not your job to figure out if they're going to be successful, and it's your job to get them enrolled. And I was like, that's just not me.
That's terrible.
Right.
It's not me. And so
He could never do telemarketing.
no. And it wasn't working out for me. And they pulled me in the office and said, hey, we really like you as a person, but your numbers aren't great. So we'll either give you a 30-day buyout today or we'll coach you over the next 30 days. And I said, I'll take the buyout. So I took the buyout, left, started working in collections, which that was a little better, but not a lot. And again, wasn't making a ton of money. And so one of the things that happened in my life that, again, I'm very blessed at, my mom got remarried. And he is not my stepdad. He's my second dad. He's been in my life longer than my bio dad was. And he's been there through thick and thin and had fun with me and yelled at me and kicked me in the ass and did all these things that I needed. But he is a psychologist. And so let me go over to Rio Salado. And I took Psych 101, and that was whatever. It was no big deal. And I said that was fun. So I took abnormal psychology, and I took the week on personality disorders. I go, oh, this is it.
I have so much fun in my psych classes too.
Yeah, I'm
it's
like,
very
this-
interesting what you learn.
This is it. Freud and Rogers and Carl Jung and all those guys. I was like, man, this is it. And so I applied at a couple of grad school programs, and because I struggle with imposter's syndrome. I said, I'm never going to get in. And I got in to Arizona State University. Go Sun Devils.
Yeah, shout
Nice.
out Devils.
Yeah.
Yeah. Throw the horns back up there again, dude. Yeah, there we go. Do it one more time.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, and so you do your master's level over there at ASU, and what was that time period like?
That was really great. My wife and I, we didn't have kids yet, so I was able to really dedicate my time to studying and learning and honing this craft. And I went in a little worried. I was like, man, I'm going to be the oldest person in this program, because I had started a little later and didn't go right in. Excuse me, and I wasn't, and it was fine. And it was, I didn't know a lot going in, and most of the people coming in had psychology degrees, so they all knew a lot, and I had to fake it till I make it. And then when I got into the practicum stuff, I was like, oh man, it's not easy, but this is what I was born to do.
Yeah, and your extrovert personality gives you the ability to not only communicate with clients, but
like
also
run groups. And, yeah.
Because that's what it takes. Not everyone can run a group. I'll tell you that.
I absolutely hate running groups.
See, groups is my favorite. Individual
unless
sessions.
We're playing a game.
Unless you're playing Recovery Jeopardy or
Mafia.
I've made a Recovery Jeopardy like myself. Like there's a website, so I have my own personal one, and then Sober Baseball is a fun one because it's like you write down 3 secrets and like everyone has to guess whose secret it is.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to run group this week.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, you're on the schedule now.
I just like to have fun. Plus, I don't have the education. I started to get education, but not as educated.
Well, and the education is great. But I always say of all the things I know, 15% of it came from a classroom.
That's true. That is true.
And, when we talk about doing like a suicide assessment, they can teach you how to do it in school all you want. But until you're sitting across from somebody that's like, yeah, I have a plan. That's how you learn.
Yeah,
right.
That's how you learn.
That is true.
That's how we learn everything really in this field. Sure, we can learn some stuff from books and stuff, but really it comes from experience with working with clients and being a part of. And, it's on the job training that really is what counts, in my opinion. And so ultimately you need to get some on the job training, right, after you get your degree. And so you do an internship where at?
Lafayette Impact.
Okay. What was that like?
Nice.
Yeah, that was great. It was the only place I interviewed at. I was going to look at some other places, but they were too far away, and I'm like, that seems good. I'll just see what happens, and put all my eggs in one basket. And they took me on, and I like to learn by doing. I don't like to learn by watching. And for the first month, I was just observing everything and everyone, and I was like, oh, let's go. Can I just
let me
do it? Please let me go. And they came to me one day and they said, you need to run a substance abuse group. And I said, okay. And I said, and I was thinking to myself, because at this time I had no frame of reference, I'm just going to walk in there and say, stop using. See what you're doing to yourself. It's not that hard. And my job was going to be done.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, this is an easy group.
This is an easy group.
Just stop.
Just don't do it.
Do it. And the Nancy Reagan,
that
just say
like
no.
A DARE program, like headline. Just don't do it.
And to my point, that was my education.
Right.
And I remember, we all know how DARE works. You
I made the pledge.
Force third graders to sign that you're not going to do that.
And then they do the mock DUI accident where you show up and people
I
are dead.
Over school and shit.
It's crazy.
No.
And so what that first group teach you though?
So there was like 25 people in that first group, and I call them the 25 beautiful people who changed my career. Because as I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was so wrong.
Samsonite, I was way off.
That's funny.
But yeah. And
what movie is that from, Haley?
Don't know.
Dumb and Dumber. God,
wow.
I knew you didn't know. I knew it.
I was shaking my head like, yeah, okay.
We're in the Rockies.
Yeah.
Okay. I've watched Dumb and Dumber, so.
In the Rockies.
Apparently not.
I have.
But no, it was great, and I actually started asking to run those groups. And I started learning more and more and more, and that was the first time that someone told me I couldn't help them because I didn't have experience. Like, you don't know. And one of the things that I've always believed in is if you try to pretend, that people know, but they're going to get mad.
Yeah.
And that's true with everything. I'm a huge baseball fan, and when people are like, oh, yeah, me too, and they start talking about things, and I'm like,
no, you're not.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you know the same thing with soccer and Chelsea and things like that. You can tell when people are full of it.
Yeah.
But that is what changed my career, and I started doing more, and I started really loving it, and seeing that, hey, I could make a thing out of this, and so I needed to make more money, and so I found an outpatient place that paid more money, and I took it, and that was an interesting experience.
Yeah, that's where you met Haley.
Yes,
She kept
I
you
was
busy.
gonna say I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that was
but
Haley was a house manager over there, and then
anyone
eventually.
who's worked there with us, we have such a trauma bond.
But yeah, she got pulled over to the clinic, and that's where.
And I was also mean because I was pregnant. I just want to throw that out there.
That's fair. That's fair.
I was a little bit meaner. Than
we'll
I
give you that
usually
one.
would be.
But it worked, and that's also as providers, everyone does it a different way.
Right.
One of the things, and going back a little bit to Indiana State, that I was told is, I got great advice from a friend that if you're mean to girls, they like it. And I was like, all right. And so I tried that, and I don't have that in me.
Yeah.
And so I took it from 0 to 100, and then they were like, take 12 steps back.
Calm down.
And so you can get away with that, but other people can't. And I think that's where, when we provide good treatment, is when we allow ourselves to be ourselves and focus what our strengths are.
Right.
And then so COVID happens, and then you ultimately start working at another clinic, and you work there, and then here we are.
And here we are. I got independently licensed and became the clinical director, and then Haley and Aaron and the artist formerly known as Marnie, and we're all like, come over. Like, I was like, I don't know. And then my time and availability opened up, and I said, I'll go over there and interview. And it was great. And here I am.
And here you are. And you came into the sanctuary, and you jumped right in, took control. And, from there, dude, it's just been a pleasure to have you on there. But I'm curious about a couple things. We wanted to ask you some questions. We've heard your story now, but if you had to pinpoint like what your passion is for this field, for recovery, what would that be?
Group therapy and ART, accelerated resolution therapy, which is an eye movement bilateral stimulation therapy that helps to heal the uncomfortable sensation and images associated with trauma. So that's an individual setting where you sit them, and you have to have them staggered with you, and you move your hand and they move their eyes, and they think about their trauma, and then they replace it with how they want it to look, and it is wild.
So would you say that's like, if I asked you like what your favorite therapy is or techniques, what would you say that is?
Yeah, accelerated resolution therapy, or ART.
Can you do some of that with Haley right now?
No.
She would break down. It would work, and it would work quickly.
I've
Another
done
place?
EMDR before.
It's like EMDR, but faster and better, is my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so how it all came to be is someone that worked with EMDR came up with this idea how to make it faster, and they took it to.
Because I know EMDR is like a drawn out process.
It is very drawn out. That's kind of why I stopped doing it.
And so this one is more, hey, you're stable now. Do you have seizures? You don't? Okay.
Let's go.
Sign this. Let's go. And
you got to sign a waiver for this therapy?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
But most you do. If you have an
okay.
informed consent, then that pretty much covers that. But if you're in private practice for just that, it has its own consent form. But I've done it with people, and they come back the next day and be like, what did you do to me? It's just gone.
And I've had
Like
that
the pain is
experience
gone.
with, clients after, doing that type of treatment with you, where they've said those things to me, and I see them come out of your office, and I don't know what the hell's going on in there, dude, but it looks like it was some heavy shit, dude. I'll tell you that right now.
It is. And the greatest thing is I don't do anything.
And it looks like Haley looks at the end of every shift. Shook. No, I'm just kidding.
Listen, I
Haley.
have 4 kids at home. Not much can
Shake
me. I
But
will
it's
just
the
say that.
It's great because there's a script that I follow. So I just go in and I do what somebody who's smarter than me wrote, and I do that, and their brain does the work. And why that's so important is because they get the credit. They come up, thank you. Like, I didn't do anything. I just wave my arm back and forth.
Right.
And it's more than that from my end, but it's also really not. And so they heal themselves, and they get the credit, and they feel a lot more proud of that.
Sure. And so Haley and I, throughout all these episodes and on a day-to-day basis, we describe our program quite often, but I'd like to hear it from you. So if you had to describe Sanctuary's just program, what would that look like?
It's individualized, which I think is great. We don't just take you and put you in and say you're going to do this many days for this amount of time and you're going to come these hours. It's more, well, what do you think your needs are? And then we take that into account. 5 days a week, so between 3 and 5 hours of treatment, and individual therapy, group therapy. They meet with a psych provider. They get all the things that they need, and we treat the individual, which I think is
it's missed in a lot of other.
It is, and it's something that I require my team to do. Is they need to treat the individual, and if we think about the clients downstairs right now, the way that we're going to talk to them is going to be very different.
Exactly.
So there are some clients that we can take the Haley method where we put them in and break our foot off.
Haley method, that's a form of treatment.
I walked in the room and one of the clients like, I kind of miss you because you used to come in and lay down the law and there's clients that didn't like that about me.
Sure.
So it's funny.
And my comfort zone is a lot more soft spoken and caring. It's just how I am. I can take it next level if I need to. But I can also have the ability to turn that back and really meet them where they are. And so that's what effective treatment is about, is meeting the clients where we are, because if we make a curriculum and say this is how it is for every single client and this is how it's going to be,
you're not going to have anybody recovering.
We're not going to have anybody recovering. Whereas, if we don't leave it up to them, but we leave it up to their progress and their success, then that's great.
Yeah.
And so that's...
And you mentioned your team. So, you do have a team that works under you, therapists and all kinds of different team members. What's the mission and goal for your team?
To provide the best care every single day. I don't ask my therapist to bring 100% every day, because sometimes we don't have 100%. If you come in and you walk in the door, if you have 70%, I'll accept that, but you better give me 100% of that 70%. And I think it's letting go of biases. It's really easy to get jaded in this field. It's really easy to be angry. It's really easy to be...
Right, you cannot take anything personal in this
Sure. And it's saying, remember, if, for the people who were in recovery, remember what it was like for you at 22 days.
Right.
Yeah. You have the benefit and the curse of personal experience. When we see people doing things that we don't like, that reminds us of ourselves. We are harder on them.
Right.
Yeah, sure. And let me ask you this. What do you think makes Sanctuary different than the other places that you work or any other places that you've seen?
I think we've really adopted, one of the things I hold issue with is a work family. And I've never liked that phrase, just because family is a different dynamic than work. We're a really strong work team, and we've really taken that on, and we support each other. And, not that I haven't had support in last places I work, because I think that I have, but this is the most support that I've had. Mm-hmm. And I also know that when I ask somebody to get something done, it's going to get done, and I don't need to follow back around and look at it. And, I've got enough things going on that I don't have time to double check people's work. And so the fact that they get that done that's part of what's unique, is when people come in, they're going to get the best care. And it's great because the therapists get frustrated when they don't do a good job. They come to my office like, oh, I missed this or I missed that. And they're hungry for knowledge and willing to learn, and give every piece of feedback that I give to them. And I think that's not exclusive to Sanctuary, but it's very unique.
Nice. So, in this field and just anything in life, the more we continue to put our best foot forward and be humble and teachable and coachable, we're always evolving and growing. So in your period of time now, working in treatment, being a therapist, clinical director now, and everything that you've been through the internship and college and all that, how do you think you've evolved as a clinical director?
So I can remember thinking back to when I was an intern, thinking I would never be independently licensed, that I would just never get there and never be good enough, that imposter syndrome kicking in. And my first full job in substance abuse, right after La Frontera, I got walked all over. And I got lied to, and I got taken advantage of. And each time that happened, I grew from it. And so I've evolved to the point of where I still do my best to give people the benefit of the doubt. But if I know that you're lying to me, I'm going to call you on it.
Right.
And I don't take things like that anymore. And I've evolved in that I feel a lot more comfortable asking people to do things than delegating. I used to just do everything myself, just because
You know it's going to get done.
I know it's going to get done,
and
but
you won't
I've
get in trouble if it doesn't get done.
Yes.
Because I know the mentality of how it used to be at the last place we worked.
Yeah.
right.
You were always in trouble.
There was no delegating. I was always in trouble, but I was like the favorite.
Yeah,
Troublemaker.
get out here with that. You were in trouble. No.
Not compared to other people. Let's just put it that way. Like I've gotten scolded. 100% I've gotten scolded, but.
And one of the last thing I want to ask you is, if you had to give, let's say, your future self or somebody that is at ASU getting their master's right now, wants to become a clinical director and be privately licensed and be in this field, what is one piece of advice you'd like them to know?
That it's not about them. People are going to fail. People are going to, especially if they want to do substance abuse. One of the things that one of my teachers said that I'll never forget, she said, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. You will have a patient die. It's going to happen. Don't try to avoid it. It's going to happen. And so what I would tell them is, hey, none of this is about you. Their success is not about you unless you're doing a bad job, unless you're not trying. But if you put forth an honest effort, their failure is not about you. On the other hand, their success is not about you.
Right.
And so I would say just come in and do your best every single day and take what you learn and learn from your experiences and be better tomorrow than you were today. And that's all you need to do, and you'll get there.
Nice.
Did you write that down, Haley?
Writing it down.
Yeah, write that down. It sounds like sponsorship too, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Good.
only way you fail them is by not showing up.
Yep.
You ain't not doing nothing special.
Right.
So I could definitely appreciate that, and it's been a pleasure having you on the show and getting to know you a little bit better. So if anyone, all of our podcast listeners out there and everyone who's watching on YouTube and our listeners all across the country, if you want to come be therapied, is that a word?
Therapized.
Therapized. Okay,
Therapized.
there we go. With our very own clinical director, Michael Dixon. Where do they find us? How could they get in touch with us?
So we're on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and our website, of course, but it's all at Sanctuary Recovery Centers, and then our website is sanctuaryrc.com.
If you want to have Michael Dixon sitting across the chair doing the eye-hand technique, speeding some things up,
I think I got it.
Coming out looking shook like Haley does at the end of every shift. If you want to be a part of that full-scale treatment that we got going on at the Sanctuary, reach out to us, man, and come be a part of it.
It'll change your life.
Life-changing.
Let me throw out our admissions line really quick.
Throw it out
it's 480-309-9945.
Yeah, ask directly for Mr. Dixon. It doesn't matter day or time. Doesn't even matter. You ask directly for him. We'll
24/7.
24/7 care we provide here.
Exactly.
So thank you for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And all of our listeners, man, tune into the next episode.
See you next time.